I know that someday that sun is bound. Some folks can.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Oh, this is good. This is really good.
The Fringe FM has some of the best shows in paranormal, like Lighting the Void, The Secret Teachings, Into the Paranormal, Alex Exum, and so much more.
Yeah, baby!
We're live every night with hours of live original programming. Plus, we air some of the best shows in this genre, and we're not afraid to tell it like it is. Check us out at thefringe.fm. Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on the Fringe FM.
This is Paranormal News. I'm Ryan Gable of The Secret Teachings.
TESS, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, is NASA's newest exoplanet mission. It's being led out of MIT, and it's going to find thousands of new planets orbiting bright nearby stars. And it's going to build upon the legacy of the Kepler mission, only it's going to focus on nearby bright stars that are sprinkled across the whole sky, and it's going to help us answer a really important question, and that is, which of our near-stellar neighbors has planets?
TESS has found its third planet to date, but the first in the category of Earth-like. It's actually bigger than Earth and sits outside of our solar system, orbiting its star every 36 days and reaching 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Diane Dragomir, a postdoctorate at MIT who led this new discovery, says, quote, "It's the coolest small planet that we know of around a star this bright." She adds that HD 21749b is probably made of gas like Neptune or Uranus, though far more dense. TESS launched last April. A confirmation 10 years in the making. The first exoplanet candidate of NASA's late Kepler Space Telescope has been validated. It lies about 2,600 light-years from the Sun and orbits its host star every 3.8 Earth days. University of Hawaii graduate student Ashley Contos said their new analysis, quote, which uses stellar sound waves observed in the Kepler data to characterize the host star, demonstrated that the star is in fact 3 times larger than previously thought, revealing that Kepler 1658b is actually a hot Jupiter-like planet. Kepler ran out of fuel in late October of last year after finding more than 2,500 exoplanets over its nearly decade-long life. Several big discoveries are still likely to come as researchers analyze the mountain of data. Read these stories and more at paranormalradio.com. In for John Jeter, I'm Ryan Gable, Paranormal News.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift.
Contact, nice, in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Hello, I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. It is Thursday night, March the 14th, only 6 more days to the 2019 spring equinox, and it is a gorgeous, beautiful night here in the natural state. Absolutely gorgeous. The studio is back, firing on all cylinders. Thank you guys so much for your patience with me. And we are live on the Fringe.fm. Our network is the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. And our website is lightingthevoid.com. Follow us on social media if you can. Just Google Lighting the Void. And, yeah, it's kind of weird. I've never skipped a few days in a week, so this is kind of weird. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you love the show, donate. Use the Amazon portal. Grab a t-shirt. Share, like, leave a review, all that stuff. And I want to give a shout-out to all of you, actually, for your patience. Usually I just name specific names, but all of you that have been really cool with me. It's like, oh, you know, enjoy the break. But I've been freaking out. I ain't been getting much sleep. So, yeah, so tonight it's a two-part show tonight. First part of the show, we're going to have Maureen St.Germain on. We're going to be talking about her new book as well. And then on the second part of the show, we're going to have Tito Abao on. So we didn't miss out. We're really not missing out on anything this week. Monday night, Maureen was supposed to come on, but that's when the station went kaput. So just to let you know, everything's back to normal. It really is. So today, I already started seeing the pollen and stuff hit the cars and whatnot, so it's all over the place. And it's probably a good idea, real quick, I want to tell you, before this pollen hits, before you get into any of this stuff, you probably want to get up and ante up on your tea. Yeah, you get the tea, make sure you do that. Also, make sure you're dosing on the ancient life oil, and you know, that stuff is kind of like a given now for most of us. I think we all kind of know it. But another thing, too, that I wanted to mention really quick is that Ronnie McMullen, you know, he was doing Deep Waters radio show here. He's doing webinars every 2 weeks, and then I kind of host the webinar. I don't host it. I just push the buttons, and he talks, right? And so every 2 weeks he does a webinar, and you sign up on his website. He's got a link there to sign up, and you get a one-time discount on this stuff. Only the people in the webinar get, and we talk about all kinds of cool stuff that have to do with your health. And it's funny to watch because when Ronnie does this stuff, he can't really talk about, like he can't say, okay, guys, it helps with this, this, and that, because he gets all these FDA hits or whatever. So we kind of talk about health and tell stories, and then you get the cool coupon. So if you want to come hang out with us every 2 weeks, Monday night at 5 p.m., there's a link at getthetea.com. Go check that out. Also, grab the Surfer Music app. It's the only music app I listen to now, and I really mean that. I don't use Spotify anymore. Not that I have anything against them, but you don't have to sign up for anything, and it's a waterfall of music. All right, so if you want to hang out with us tonight in the chat rooms, we've got one over at thefringe.fm/chat, also over on Spreaker, and if you want to call in any point in time, it's 1-800-588-0335. I'm excited, man. Spring is here. I know you can tell that I feel so much better. Even TV's better, right? The Avengers Endgame's coming. Game of Thrones is coming. I can't wait. I can hear the crickets through my door right now. So, yeah, let's kick this off. Now, We've had Maureen St.Germain on the show before. We discussed her book, Waking Up in 5D. Now, this one's all about the Akashic Records. If you've never heard of Maureen St.Germain, she's an ascension teacher and author who has developed foolproof techniques to access your higher self, which introduces her latest book, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. It's called Opening The Akashic Records. Meet your record keepers and discover your soul's purpose. And in this book, she talks about how to simply and easily access your own Akashic Records. Founder of the Akashic Records International, Inc., a training and promotion organization, Maureen was granted access to this dimension that has been closed to most of humanity for eons, and now she is considered a direct channel to source, known for her Amazon bestseller and The Power of Sacred Tools, Waking Up in 5D, Beyond the Flower of Life, and Be a Genie. She has been sharing knowledge, and she's gained from years of research and meditation on all of the ancient truths that we love to talk about. And you can check out the website at MaureenSt.Germain.com. Maureen, it's really, really good to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm looking at your logo thinking, it looks like a lightning strike in your logo, Lighting the Void.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, especially from what you went through this week. And thank you so much for having me on the show and being so persistent to, try and make it all come together. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's not a problem. It's been such a long time since I talked to you, and I know we had such a great conversation last time. Actually, you were one of the first people that I really had a deep discussion about 5D with, because I didn't understand it at all, and you helped me understand it, and it was really a fabulous time. So now you've got this book about the Akashic Records, which is something a lot of people talk about, like it's this mystic thing that only certain people can access to go into their past lives and all of this thing. I don't understand it that well, to be honest with you. So I'm really happy that you wrote a book about it.
Well, it's very interesting because what you said about only, special people could get into this energy or this arena, it's true that was how it was. And back in the late 80s, a dispensation came through. Maybe it was part of the harmonic convergence. I'm not sure. And the privilege for anyone to open the records was granted. So you didn't have to have the ability to have earned the right to kind of access that level of awareness. And instead, you can access the records a lot of ways, but a simple way is through a simple prayer. And the Akashic Records are a body of knowledge, a living library, a library of movies that the minute you get close, the movies start running and you think you don't even realize you're in the library or in the edge of the library. So it's alive and reacts to everything we do and say. And that's very powerful because it changes how we think about ourselves and how we think about everyone else. Because once you start accessing this information, your mind is expanded. It's amazing what happens.
And some of the things you can tap into, from what I've heard, and you can correct me on this, is not only your past lives, but maybe records of, I guess, existence in humanity. I guess it has a record of everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything has a record. It's absolutely true. It's a very curious thing the way it works because you can tap in to the records of the people you're working with or involved with, but only to the extent that their involvement is with you. On the other hand, you can tap into your own records. Now, I'm not especially interested in past lives. Mm-hmm. The primary purpose of the accessing the records is soul growth. And when you start to realize that you can solve so many issues in your life, not even problems, just issues, with access to the records, it's so amazing because not only does it give you answers to wacky stuff that's going on, but by taking the time to sit down and ask that question and get the answer, then you're different than you would have been if you didn't have that information. So like a good example is you told me this evening why there was all this runaround between you and I getting set up and when we were going to do the show.
Yeah.
But I wasn't bothered by it. It didn't bother me a bit. I was fine. Whatever works, I'm happy to be with you because I agree. I had such a great time with you last time. But if you were judgmental, if a person was judgmental, they might be, well, that guy stood me up. I'm not doing it with him again. He doesn't even show, and yeah, I got a cancellation notice, but it was so late, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, the difference is when you have knowledge about what's really going on, it expands your awareness, expands your consciousness. And in the case of, let's say, being stood up for lunch, meeting someone, you're kind of annoyed with your friend that doesn't show. But if they call you later and say, look, I'm sorry I let you down and it didn't show, but I was in a fender bender. My car got totaled, but I'm okay. Then you don't even care that they didn't stand you up. You don't hold that against them. You don't keep score and say, you better not miss this lunch next time. You don't even think about that.
I got you.
So, yeah, so that's what happens in the records. You get information that you otherwise wouldn't get any other way.
So
and
it helps us.
Very powerful.
It helps us maybe look around the propaganda and history and books and maybe actually tap into it and see parts of a story or a truth or when it comes to understanding ourselves, we can see bigger pictures of the story, you're saying.
Exactly. Now, you talk a lot about the 5D book and how, kind of expanded you and expanded your consciousness, and our conversation did too. But I wrote a story in that book about the fact that I kept seeing my husband in some kind of a weird industrial type accident. And I knew kind of where it was going to happen. I kind of knew when it was going to happen. I had an energy feel on it. And I wasn't sure if I should even say anything to him, because who am I to, predict that and, mess with him that way if he's not asking. So I kept, checking in. Am I to tell? And I finally had a conversation with a team member who was very close to me at the time. And she said, thank God you told me. I was seeing the same thing and I didn't know what to do with it either. So then I sat down and did a real direct inquiry with the record keepers and asked specifically, okay, I'm ready and willing to say this to my husband. Am I to move forward? And I was told yes. And now, if your wife came to you and said something like this, you might think, well, is it my time to go? Can it be averted? And there's all kinds of stories about trying to change, the path of something. So, you got to be careful what you're doing. And my husband said to me, well, if you told me, I said, have you thought about going back, to this environment that you're doing an investigation on? And without skipping a beat, he said, well, if you told me not to go, I wouldn't go. And so then I told him what I was seeing in the ethers. And he said, well, could you open the records for me tomorrow? And I said, okay. Now, I'm thinking he's going to ask those kind of questions that I just said, is it my time to go? Can we change it? Blah, blah, blah. First question out of his mouth, what caused the fire? He's a science expert on fires. And without skipping a beat, out of my mouth came the words, well, actually, there were two fires. One was said to cover up the murders of a couple other people.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was so blown away by this. I stopped and I pulled myself out of the records and I looked at him and I said, oh, well, nobody died in that fire. And he looked at me very solemnly and he said, actually, 3 people died.
Oh
I didn't
God.
know any of that. Yeah. It turned out to be mob related and it's in the book. It's in the 5D book. You got to go back and take a look at it.
The mob too, and that's kind of off topic, but I always thought the mob still wasn't around, but they definitely are. I think a guy just got hit today.
Was like
got
Merchant
shot.
Marine. Oh, yeah.
I don't know his name.
Interesting. I don't know about that one, but yeah, I say the mob, but what I really was, it was like the Merchant Marine thing,
So who are these? Earlier you mentioned the record keepers, and I've heard that term before. Like, are these people like you can see, or do you just feel their presence, or you just know how do you know that they're the record keepers? How do you identify?
The way you identify them is by how they feel, how they sound in your head, the way they talk to you, like that. And when I say talk to you, it literally like drops in your brain and you hear the words. And it's not something you're thinking. It like moves in and moves through you without any thinking. It's effortless once you open to this energy. And you have to train yourself a little bit, practice like anything else, whether you're learning to play the piano or golf, really. But the process is attainable by anybody. And once you learn and qualify the energy, then it's a roll. It just rolls through you. So you and I don't see them. But occasionally you might see something that is the message that they're sending. Like one time, one of my trained guides told me about, she sees things more than she hears words. So when she was getting a message for a client, the client wanted to have a baby and she was thinking about getting married to this guy, and she was asking about all that. And the guide said, well, I see you dancing and holding the baby. Now, the client was a little nuts because she said, well, am I happy? And I'm thinking, when I'm hearing this story, being told, second of all, I'm thinking, dang, I would have just said, well, you're dancing. What do you think?
Right. Yeah. Usually you are when you're dancing. You're happy.
Yeah. So anyway, people do get visuals. And when anybody, the majority of people get words, but that's because we're in a word-based reality,
right?
The way we interact. But, the ETs and the pets all think in pictures. They're not thinking in words. And when you're in telepathy with, a being that's not from here, it's telepathy. So, and a lot of it's pictures. So when somebody gets upset with me saying, well, I'm not getting any words, all I get are pictures, I say to them, well, you're probably more advanced than the rest of us. I wouldn't sweat it. I'd say thank you. So it does happen that people get pictures instead of words, but it doesn't matter. And I teach them how to deal with that,
So I've heard a lot about this idea when it comes to timelines and things like that are, and I have a hard time differentiating this, like our higher self versus our future self. And I've even read some books on this too, where you can tap into your higher self, or now they call it your future self, to help out your current self. And I was thinking, well, isn't that kind of like the Akashic Records? Isn't that pretty much the same thing, where you can communicate with the higher version of yourself to help you make better decisions? Is it like that?
Well, first of all, I really compliment you, because I've been telling people to do that for 20 years, to connect with the higher versions of you or the more evolved versions of you, and ask for a download of that information so you don't have to work so hard. But it's not like the Akashic Records, in the sense that the Akashic Records are more like your board of directors, who know a lot of stuff, know all the right people, know all the things that you need to know about, and are able to give you advice. So every time you ask something in the records, you are very likely to get advice as well as the answer to what you're asking about.
Yeah, that really parallels with in the chat room before we did this. I dropped a link to Michael Newton's old book, which was Journey of Souls, where they went into regressions and stuff. And even between lives, these people, before they would go into their next life or move on or whatever, would meet. It seemed like a lot of stories of meeting like a board of directors, so to speak. That's interesting that you say that.
Right. And the members, going back to your earlier question, the members of the Akashic Records are beings who are highly evolved, and they offer a quality of benevolence that is so big. Their only concern is your welfare and helping you to understand your world. They're not going to tell you what to do, but they're going to give you advice. Just like, you tell somebody who knows about motorcycles and you're doing something wacky, they're going to say, I wouldn't do that. I'd be more inclined to take it to the shop and have them do that. You could have a problem. But they don't say, don't do that to you. They just, recommend. And then some of the members of the records are like the Guild Navigators from Dune, if you ever read that book. And these Guild Navigators actually enfolded you and enfolded space. And so their energy is bigger than the people, and they could just hold it in. And then there's other beings who serve, like a term of service, and then they go somewhere else. They just, there for a little bit of a ride. And some of those people actually embody on Earth. And some of those people then would be fantastic as a guide in the records, because it's their native tongue practically.
So now in this moment, just to be clear, we all have access to this now, right? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. There's no limitation except your own vibration. So if your heart isn't open or you're got some wacky agenda, your capacity to receive information is going to be limited. Your capacity to hold information is going to be limited. So
when we talk
the records
about, go ahead. Sorry.
The records have this quality that you're matching with the vibration of where you're at. And that's also why it's a dispensation, because I teach people to become fifth dimensional first and go through that 5D experience and learn their higher self connection. And then when they open the records, they're already at a place of non-polarity. And it's really like a stargate or a tunnel that puts you into the 11th dimension energy, because you're not flying through 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to get there. You're just tunneling in.
Man, that's so intense. It is, because
you know what? It's amazing. It's not intense. It's actually blissful. One of my students said to me recently, I like to go in the records every day because I like to get the information for the day. But I have to tell you, this energy is so addictive.
Well, I bet.
Because there's so much love. Yeah.
I bet. Does it feel like it's well, I'll just be honest with you, Maureen. The more I get unpolarized, the more I try to raise my awareness, like we talked about the first time you're on here. When I start asking questions about why, the whole story and everything, it's cool because you have these aha moments and you get it. But then it's also kind of lonely because, in my experience, because it's hard to relate to people. But maybe that's going to change because a lot more people are waking up. Hopefully, as you say, if this is going to be, if everyone's going to be able to access it, maybe we'll all start coming to the fold,
Well, I had an aha moment in the corporate job that I was in, and I kind of felt the way you did about life and these things. I had a corporate job. I had 4 kids at home. I was putting them through college, blah, blah, blah. And one day in meditation, I was told, honey, you can do your mission right where you are. You don't have to wait till you're not working in the corporate world anymore. And one of those things is this expression of how you interact with people, in the sense of, deep appreciation for each being and this joy you bring to the table, and, think of a situation where you're on the phone with somebody who works for the bank or the phone company, or, you're having a drama going on and something's not working. You can be, stressed out with them, or you can, laugh and say, I don't know why this is happening, but I know you'll help me fix it. It's a different way of approaching things, and that changes everyone around you. So even though you don't get to talk about this stuff, except for maybe with your guests or whatever, at the same time, you can see the difference in the interactions you have with the people around you.
That is fascinating. I want to get into a little bit more about the book, guys. It's MaureenSt.Germain.com. We have to take our first break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
All right, I'm going to take...
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shifthead.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. And purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Opening the Akashic Records is the new book by Maureen St.Germain, and that's what we're discussing tonight. And it's been almost a year since I talked to you, Maureen. And, everybody that I've talked to since then, other radio show hosts, everybody in this field, they all love you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice to say.
Well, it's the truth.
I love. Oh, thank you.
Whatever you're doing is really shining on a lot of people. I can say that.
Nice. That's very cool to hear. Very cool to hear.
What do we? So here's the thing. Like, I want to be able to do this, right? And I know we don't have time to discuss everything in the book, but how do we access it? Like, what are some of the signs that we could possibly look for to know that we're accessing these records?
Well, before I start, I want to say, I kind of alluded to this, that anybody can get in the records. And it does happen that people are accessing the records and don't even know they're doing it. So we'll start with that.
Okay.
And then I'll also make the comment, farm kids never have to take driver's ed. They might take it to get a lower insurance rate, but they don't need it like the rest of us do. So it's a little bit like that some people have, they have their own spiritual work that they're doing and they just kind of roll into it. But what I'm doing is teaching an actual protocol. So you follow these steps and you do it this way. And what I do is I take people through practice where they start to learn a certain way and they are taught then about their higher self and the higher self connection. And then as we move into the training, I start teaching them markers. Now, markers are exactly the answer to your question. What is it that helps people know they're in the records, or what is it that helps people know they're getting accurate information? And the number one thing to do, I think, if you were going to learn and you didn't want to buy my book, would be to sit down and announce, I'm ready and willing to be a channel of light, and I'm only accepting, guidance from beings of 100% God light. And then I would, take the dictation as it were. And one of the ways you're getting information coming in from the Akashic Records and the record keepers is what I call the hammock effect. And what it means is you have this warm, fuzzy feeling. You feel so yummy and secure. And that's a feeling that kind of, it just kind of starts happening. And you might not notice it right away. But then after, 10 minutes or something, you're thinking, wow, I feel pretty good. I'm pretty happy, and there's this quality of joy that is so pervasive that you literally feel like you're, someone's holding you and, making you feel special. And then the second thing that a lot of people get is what I call the soundless sound. And the soundless sound is a bit like this. And you hear it in your ears. You and I hear it in our ears all the time. But this is a louder version of that. And it's noticeable. And it comes in. And as I'm describing it, it just came in for me. And wow. So when you're working in this energy, that the elevation of that, like background soundlessness shows up. And that also is like a marker. Okay, I'm in. And it's like when you're on the internet and you're waiting for the computer to show you that button that says, okay, your internet's connected. So it's a bit like that. And there's others that help people identify specifically what those markers are. And I think that the markers are very important because it gives us reassurance. And one other way that's hands down irrefutable is when the message is loving and supportive. Because the record keepers only can speak that way. It's like that's the only language they know. It's kind of funny when you think about it, but, when you want to get someone's attention and they're doing something that you either don't like or don't want, there's lots of ways to do that. And I'm telling you that the way the record keepers do it is they do it in the sweetest, most loving and supportive way. So, if you're not doing something you need to be doing, they'll say, you'll get better results if you will take the time to do your daily exercise. And it will support you in your thinking as well as your physical stamina. And you're just complaining because you're tired all the time. You don't want to know that stuff, but they're telling you in a really nice way, you need to get out and move, for example. So there's this quality of communication that is so loving that it's irrefutable. And that is probably the one way that I know when someone's not in the records, because people will sometimes take dictation from some energy that's inside of them, or if they have an entity or something else, that keeps them from getting accurate information. So I always like people to do clearing work, clearing out the emotions that are in trouble, or the energies. People don't realize that the largest amount of what I call cohabitation in your body, more than one soul in your body, is the parent of an adult. So, you look after your parent and then they pass away. Then instead of going home to God, they move into your body. And, somebody says, why are you acting this way? You didn't used to be like this. I don't know.
Oh, no.
And
are you serious
going.
about this?
I am totally serious about this.
Oh, no. Okay, so I'll
This has
start
happened
preparing
to you,
for that.
huh?
Well,
Say it again?
Well, my dad hasn't passed away, but I can't imagine. Oh, man. Yeah, I'll just start preparing for it. I'll take your word for it and start preparing for it, because.
Well, here's what I will say to that, is that you keep an eye out for it. And the thing is, it's still a gift to them and to you, because it's a gift to them to be in your body and have that experience. And once you don't have a body, you don't have a mental body, you don't have an emotional body, you obviously don't have your physical body, all you've got left is the etheric body. And so you're carrying around dreams and wishes and hopes and desires that maybe you didn't resolve. So one of the reasons people don't go home to God is because they have unfinished business. Maybe they're worried about you. Maybe they want to know why you're so good to them when they were so mean to you. Could be anything like that. I had a client once who came to me and said, I like it when my husband has time off and goes on golfing adventures or whatever. I really want him to be happy, and it makes me happy to know he's doing these things. But every time he gets ready to go out golfing, I start giving him a hard time and try and stop him. And I don't know what's going on. It's almost like I can't help myself. And so I said, so who in your life didn't want you to have fun? And she said, oh, my dad. And I said, well, how long has he been gone? 13 years. So it doesn't matter whether it's 13 minutes or 13 days or 13 years. They can't tell time. So the father moved into her because she was the only one of his 13 children that was willing to help him as he died of liver disease, because he was an alcoholic and he was a horrible father to those kids and treated them terribly. But she wanted to serve him because of who she was as a spiritual being. And she wasn't holding it against him. She had forgiven him. So, but he moved in because, again, her compassion. And that's a very interesting thing. I know somebody that, called me within minutes of somebody passing away. So I think he's in me. I'm having trouble breathing. And he had emphysema. And I said, well, let's just clear him out. And what we do in the clearing work is we call in Archangel Michael. I like to use the stainless steel knife and cut around the body, like where the aura would be, and under the feet. And then there's a YouTube video. In my YouTube channel, I've got a couple of YouTube videos of me showing you how to do it and how it's done in the prayer that I like you to use. And then they get an escort. Sometimes they don't go home to God because they're afraid and they need a little help being, walked to the place where they need to be.
Yeah, I've heard about that too, and I've read about that in a lot of things. People get, see, like if I passed away, the one thing I think that I don't know if you think about this stuff, but like if I passed away, I would have a hard time leaving my son, by himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all I would think that I would think about. But if I don't have a mind and emotions and stuff, I don't really know. But when I think about those things, I can't imagine leaving him here by himself. It kind of worries me a little bit.
Exactly. And so if you passed away when he's still little, you're going to rush to him, and without having an awareness, you might move into him without even realizing it, you see? And that's what happens. I worked with a man who was in his 60s, and when he was 5 years old, some energy moved into him. And how did we find out? Well, when we did the clearing work, I started checking in and getting information. And what happened is he had jumped in the swimming pool to be near his sister, who was 10 years older than him. And he was in water over his head and he started to drown. And then something moved into him. He felt it come in and suddenly he knew how to swim.
Wow.
And that was
really cool.
Interfering with his life at that point in time. Up until then, it wasn't a problem. Pretty wacky, huh?
Yeah, that is.
So, sometimes we accept a soul that's lost or, hasn't gone home to God for reasons that you and I don't know about until we start exploring it. So we don't look at it with, oh man, this is really awful. I tell people everybody picks up stuff. I was in the grocery store with my husband and he picked up the lady in front of him, her entities and energies. And she was just, struggling to get enough money to pay for her groceries, digging in one packet and then another and then her bag, like that. And I could see him getting a little fidgety. And I don't say anything, I'm thinking, well, whatever, and he gets home and he starts acting very strange. I don't even remember now what it was he was doing, but it was so out of character for this nice guy that I'm married to. I just looked at him and said, what's going on with you? As soon as I said it, I saw the little old lady and I said, I think we need to clear you. And he said, okay. It's just that simple. It takes 2 seconds, really.
Now I know that you, and I have to ask this, right? But I know that you've probably come up against this because people just want to know this stuff, right? Especially the skeptics and things like that. Is there, obviously, when it comes to things like scientific evidence, probably not going to find it. This is an experiential truth. But what about like in history? Is there actual any evidence of the existence of the records themselves?
Well, the word Akash comes from the Sanskrit for sky, and the term broadly means anything in the sky. And when we put the word Akashic with the word records, we're specifically referring to a library. So sometimes people talk about the Akash in broad terms. Now, in specific answer to your question, the well-known seer and psychic Edgar Cayce referred to the Akashic Records when he was asked, where's your information coming from? And he would say, from the soul that's identified and the Akashic Records. And then you go back to the Theosophy group, and Madame Blavatsky started using that term, the Akashic Records. So it really came into popular use in the last 100 years. Before that, it was called the Book of Life. And when Cayce was asked, well, what do you mean by the Akashic Records? Because it wasn't as well known as it is perhaps now, the messenger through him, when he was in the trance, said, it is the Book of Life that you know in the Bible. And there's probably 40, I don't know whether there's 40, I shouldn't say that. I know of 4 specific references where the Book of Life is mentioned, and that, they're referring to when there's this Book of Life going on. And you realize, Book of Life is the same as the Akashic Records. We've just given it a more modern name, you see.
I get what you're saying, yeah. And Edgar Cayce was pretty spot on. I mean, incredibly well known for his, predictions about people's health and the body and even other things people used him for. So I would have to, definitely some big integrity there, for sure.
Yes, so the only place I know for sure that there's historical evidence of the Akashic Records would be in the Old and New Testament.
Gotcha. I gotcha. And so earlier you were talking about how the energy is addictive. And this is something that I ran into when it came to things like astral travel and the out-of-body experience. I would say for like 5 months almost, I kind of, once I figured out that I could go into these internal realms, that's all I wanted to do. And I kind of forgot about my life here. Would that happen with you with doing this stuff too as well? Would you worry about that?
No, because here's one of the rules that you have to follow. You have to keep your eyes open.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And that's because you're connecting with a very high realm, but we don't want you to leave here. We don't want you to just like let your consciousness go floating out over there. We want you to be bringing this information back here. And when you are doing these lovely journeys that you were doing, you're not aware of your body, and you're not bringing all that information back in a tangible form that you can use. You're certainly going to be a different person as a result of these adventures, but you don't write down everything that happens because you can't remember it all.
Wow, this is incredible. And so your book has a guide so we can learn how to access it, look for the signs, and then for the rest of our life, we'll all be able to do this. If this spreads like I hope it does, and we all learn how to do this, what are the implications? What do you think it could do for the community and even possibly the planet?
I think it would be a marvelous thing, because then you wouldn't have so many of these interactions with people messing with each other and hurting each other. There wouldn't be broken hearts. There wouldn't be, psychological drama. People wouldn't have to have the psychological healing that they now need, because they get information and it would help them figure out how to deal with the situation in a way that's more useful. Sometimes we want to make a decision and we want that decision. And someone comes along and say, yeah, but if you do this, you'll get that. It'll be so much better for you. And you think, I only want this. And you kind of slam your fist, right? I think of the time when I was a fifth grader. And as a farm family, my mother gave each of us 6 kids one birthday party. And it was when you turned 12. So my mother said to me, First Holy Communion is the same day as when your party would be. Do you want to wait a week? Because all the kids that you're going to invite are probably going to have to go to their siblings' family parties, and we might end up with a low attendance. So, but it's up to you. Well, I'm sorry. I was 12 years old. I had already waited at least 6 years that I could think of, maybe 12, right?
Yeah.
Do you think I could wait another week?
No, not a 12-year-old. No way. Right.
And so, when half as many kids came that I was expecting, after the party, I cried. I was so disappointed.
I can relate to that. I've had like 3, maybe 4 birthday parties in my entire life, so
well,
I know all about that feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So my point is, in the records, they would say, if you wait, you will have a much better attendance. And as an adult, when we're working in the records and we know that they're giving us useful information that we either don't have the wisdom or we're not ready to hear it, it actually improves our life, because we're likely to listen to that because it came out of our pen, it came out of our mouth. Right. And that's why it becomes valuable, because, when you're learning to open the records and you're practicing, you're just practicing. I tell the classes, when you open someone's records for the very first time, if the person who you're reading doesn't like, if you're being read, let's put it the other way. If you're being read and the person who's reading you don't like what they're saying and it doesn't make sense and blah, 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 you can just ignore it because it's their first reading. You don't care. They're practicing on you. And, everybody laughs. But, then as soon as they have their first reading, they go, she said such and such. And I said, you know what? Blow it off. Ignore it. They're practicing. But once you get past that, where you're starting to feel comfortable and you're starting to feel like, wow. And you do feel like you're making it up. There's no question about that. But once you get past a certain point in your practice, what happens is you settle down and get it. That when I go in the records, I'm going to get good information that is useful for me. And that is why you listen to it. Because you've taken the time, it's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym, you're not going to spend the time in the locker room. You're going to go use the machines. I got myself here. I'm going to go use the machines like that. So that's kind of what happens. You set aside 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. It's not a lot of time. And you ask, I like people to write their questions out ahead of time. So then when they're in the records and they write out the question and get the answer, it just flows. They're not moving from their logical side to their intuitive side, because you are using a different side of your brain to receive this information.
Well, you sound like you're a person that likes to plan things and do things right. Some of the gyms I go to, so some of the guys will pick up a weight 4 or 5 times, and then they'll walk around the rest of the time looking at themselves in the mirror. So, yeah.
That's funny as all get. I never noticed. I mean, I don't go to the gym right now because there isn't one that's convenient for me. But when I used to go, I never noticed anybody doing that. That's really funny.
Yeah, if you go to a gym that's got a lot of free weights in it, you're always going to find these dudes that just can't stop looking at themselves. They do it way more than they do workout. They're in front of the mirror the whole time. It's just kind of funny.
It is funny. You make me laugh.
This thing you're talking about, though, makes me question a little bit about free will, right? A free will is
I love that question.
Well, it's a thing like, what is my will? And this has been talked about by a lot of people, even people like as crazy as Aleister Crowley. Like, he would say the will is everything. He put it above love sometimes because he thought that, the divine will of your higher self really was your ultimate will anyways. And it's a really philosophical question, right? So,
well, I agree with that statement that well, first of all, when we come in, we are given free will.
Yeah.
When we leave God, it's not that we don't have free will. It's just that all the choices are of God, and all the choices we make are always going to be in alignment with some version of expressing the love of God. When we come onto this planet, we have the privilege to play in the mud and get dirty and get cleaned up. And that's us practicing free will. Now, we don't judge it when we let a little kid do that. But what people don't realize is when you come in, even if you have a contract to meet someone and, work with that person or get married to that person or whatever it is, when you come in, if you don't want to take that contract, you don't have to. And you can either change it with your will. I recommend people, if you have a contract with somebody, or if you think you have a contract with somebody, do a ceremony. Don't just, up and break it. You can, because you have free will. And so that's the first thing. You have free will over everything. And secondly, if I say to you, well, I'll tell you an example. A woman who had a monthly reading with me for a long time was getting ready to move into a new apartment, and she was going to rent the second bedroom to a gay guy that she had met through friends who was coming in from another city. He was taking a new job. And she was a cook and wanted control of the kitchen and the dining room, and he didn't really care about any of that, so she thought it was a perfect match. So she said, kind of as her last question, oh, by the way, how's that going to work out with my new roommate? And the record keepers through me said, well, it'll be fine until the luster wears off. Now, I don't talk that way. That's another way you're in the records, because they're saying stuff you wouldn't say. I know what the word luster means, but I never would use it in a sentence in normal conversation unless I'm talking about a piece of jewelry, right?
Yeah.
So she says, luster? What luster? Does that mean he's not going to say? And the record keeper said, no. And then she said, well, when will he leave? And they said, in July. And she was moving in the 1st of June. So she said, of what year? She's like getting really excited, right? And they said, this year. So she had trouble comprehending that and wasn't sure whether that was really going to happen. And certainly I wasn't trying to predict anything, because I'm just answering her questions and the answers are flowing through me. So she said, well, maybe I shouldn't rent to them. Maybe I shouldn't rent to him at all. And the record keeper said, no, we recommend keeping your arrangement with him because it will lead you to the timing of the roommate of your dreams.
Oh, okay.
And that's exactly what happened. So she, I
feel like this is like your personal genie that you can talk to,
It almost is. Yeah, absolutely. And the lady that she ended up renting to wasn't even looking for a place until 2 months later. So she wouldn't have even met that lady. And they became best friends. They had movie night once a week. It was cool. Very cool.
Yeah, this is really cool because we're learning about the practical uses of the Akashic Records. We're at the top of the hour here, but yeah, usually when I hear about this type of stuff, it's always about meeting interdimensional beings or aliens or seeing in the past and stuff. But probably be more practical to use this stuff in our life so that we know why we're here, what our purpose is, and even help us have a happier, more fulfilled life. This is really cool. We're here with Maureen St.Germain. We're talking about her new book, Opening The Akashic Records. Everybody can access this now, guys. We'll be right back.
For 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Food was different 60 years ago. It was minimally processed, free of pesticides. It was nourishing and healthful for your body. Today, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and heavy processing have depleted the nutrition of our food supply, which takes a toll on our health and energy. It's harder than ever to get the right nutrition. That's what Life Change Tea is meant to counteract. Our specially blended, powerful herbal formulas can give you more energy without caffeine. It's a mild cleanse, a mild daily detox. A good detox can help revive and bring back the energy of your youth. GetTheTea.com is the website. It'll cleanse you from the inside out with this herbal proprietary formula. Go to GetTheTea.com. There's no fillers, no GMOs. It's organic. Not available in stores. You must go to their website, GetTheTea.com. And their supplements are a great way to maintain your health. Read the testimonials on the website. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news. These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info. And find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to the Fringe FM, and visit the website, thefringe.fm, to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Yohoy there. Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 10 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Don't forget you can sign up to the newsletter on the site. Also, if you are listening live after the program, Ryan Gable from The Secret Teachings will be on, and we should be back in the swing of things. Next Monday, we're going to bring back Board Camp Crystal Mine because they sent me some pretty interesting pictures, and you all know how I feel about Bigfoot, and it's one of my highest I could say skeptical, but very investigative subjects that I like to talk about. And they sent me some pretty interesting pictures from the crystal mine, so we're going to be discussing that. But tonight, we're here with Maureen St.Germain, and after she goes off the air, then we're going to have Tito Abao on. So, yeah, pretty cool night. But we're talking about her new book, which is Opening the Akashic Records. I think, Maureen, talking about the practicality of how we can use this stuff is really cool. I mean, why do people always think that, well, not always think, I've always thought, but why is it a fact that only certain mystics and shamans and special people could access these things back in the day? Was it for safety reasons, or was it just because there were certain people that were just more conscious, or we weren't ready? What was the reason for all that?
No, those definitions to me sound so like judgmental. The reason is we couldn't access it because we couldn't access it. It's kind of like,
okay,
if you haven't learned how to do, your spiritual travels like you do, and you try and tell someone what you're doing, they can't do it just because you're telling them about it. So they don't have access because they haven't had that practice and that mastery. The first time you attempted, it probably wasn't that successful, but you kept at it till it happened. So the real reason that only mystics and shamans could access the records was because they had the spiritual discipline to allow their energy bodies to go into the finer vibrations of the Akash to receive that kind of information. We were given the gift of a stargate or a tunnel, a way to get there directly without going through all those levels of mastery. So in a way, we've been given a workaround, or a shortcut. And why would we be given this? And the answer has to do with the fact that we're at the end of an age, the end of an era, and humanity is making a major shift in consciousness. And that's why I say, when I wrote the book 5D, that it's not that the rules have changed. The game has changed. And everything is so different. And so access to the records is one of the shortcuts. I like to call it an open book test, because basically anything you run into in your life, you can't figure out what to do or how to solve it or why people are making you crazy or, how can I stop reacting to someone pushing my buttons? The answer key's there. You just have to open the book and you're in. So it's very cool.
Is it bad to say, like, I want to, I've been told that I'm here in this place working out some karmic stuff, but I kind of like, if I had the choice, I would like to get rid of it, like this whole karma thing, almost like we're forced to work it out. But is there any way to get away from that? Like, can't we just be done with karma for a bit? Maybe take a vacation from it.
Actually, I was told back in 1994 that there was no more karma. And the only thing keeping people locked in karma was their belief in it and their belief in the fact that there's a requirement to pay off your debts. There is no more karma. There's no more requirement that you pay off debts from past lives or anything else. So whenever anybody says, oh, well, that's your karma, I know that they're like, in my world, they're in the dark ages. They haven't caught up with the latest news. And I realize that I was the first person saying this way back in 1995, and it was not met well. You know, even spiritual people said to me, how can that be, blah, blah, blah. And they would give me grief. And my response was, you know, I'm not sure how it works either, but I can tell you for sure that it's true. And one of the Akashic Records guides came through in one of the classes and basically explained that karma at this juncture is no longer needed because we're not trying to acquire any more knowledge. We've learned as much as we want. And plus, the game has gotten a little out of hand, as we all know. And so there's no need to have the scorekeeping, and it's almost like, you know, they talk about a jubilee, right? So this is the jubilee that we're getting in terms of karma. And so because there's no more karma, it's like this, you know what a jubilee is, where they wipe out everyone's debt. You know, it's an old thing that used to be done in ancient times, every 12 years or every 25 years, something like that, to help the economy and help people stay solvent. So can you imagine taking all your debt and having somebody wipe it out? Okay, even your house payment. So now you've got whatever it is, $500, $1,000 a month more than you used to have. And you still keep paying the bank because you've always paid the bank. Because you still think you have to. That's what people are. Yeah. So all you have to do is say, okay, fine, I'm done with karma. I don't want any more karma. And the benefit of claiming that for yourself is that, first of all, you know, that weight goes off your shoulder because it was you holding yourself in the cage. The door was open. And secondly, it helps you realize that all you have to do is express unconditional love, and you will find your way through this maze of life in a far different way. And you don't have to be caught up in it. You don't have to be caught up in the day-to-day drama. So, you know, and there's a wonderful chapter on no more karma in the Waking Up in 5D book. So you want to go dig that out and get into it a little deeper, because it's a little mind blowing at first. You know, how can there be no more karma? And of course, it also means that, you know, the person that sold $5,000 from me, I have to let that go. I can't carry that forward.
That's a lot of money.
Well, fine, it worked out. Yeah. Yeah. And it brought, you know, nearly bankrupted me at the time because it was the last person on a trip that I ended up paying for their trip, and they never paid me.
Wow. Yeah, that would be hard for me to let go. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, and that makes sense too. So what you have to do is, if you say that to yourself, no, this would be hard for me to let go, then when you learn to open the records, that would be one of my first questions, is just ask, how can I learn to let go of, you know, the people who have disappointed me, the people who have robbed me, the people who stole from me, the people who did crap to me, whatever it is. And when you start to realize that the faster you let it go, the faster you're going to get what you really want. You know, it's like giving people free rent in your head, because you're not going to get it back, you know. And initially we were upset because we were wounded, we were wronged, we were hurt, and we want to be validated. But after we get over that, then we want the money back because we think we need it. But if you say, okay, well, everything that gets stolen from me comes back to me multiplied by 10, and they must need it more than me, and let it go. You know, it's a way of looking at life and changing the way you think, which is why I call 5D not only a rules changer, but a game changer. What about, can't you just access it for, like, maybe I'm being selfish here, but I would like to be able to access it, and practical things are great, but I would like to be able to access it to learn some truths that are hard to figure out, like about our history, or about the nature of the universe and the nature of consciousness. Does it have anything to do? Is there any way you can get answers to those types of things?
I think so. I will tell you that what I'm hearing from the record keepers is those are very finely tuned records. And just like you have to wear white gloves when you go into a very special library, you'd have to make sure that you were doing your spiritual work and able to receive the information. Because think about it. When I received the information that there was no more karma, I didn't question it. Okay? You can talk to a lot of spiritual teachers today and they'll say, oh yeah, there's no more karma. But I was out there in the wilderness by myself telling people this. And what will happen when you're accessing these spiritual truths that you are seeking, are you ready to believe it? And are you willing to accept it and use that knowledge for good?
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, that's the stuff I think about all the time. But if I was smart, I would probably look into more practical things. Because, I've found this out in my life, digging and trying to find the answers to every little thing. You kind of time goes by really fast if that's all you're doing, and you don't get to really live your life too much. So, and having a tool like this at your disposal is great.
Sure, I ask about everyday stuff all the time myself. It's useful to ask about what's going on, in your reality, and I'm always asking about what's going on in my life. And a lot of times a client will ask about something that's going on in their life because they know they've been given a certain mission, and then they can see evidence that looks like that's not going to happen. And in the records, I'll say, ignore what's going on around you because you will have your outcome. And this is just, it's just Phil. I've asked about illnesses. I've asked about, finances or moving. I've asked about relationships that I've had with people. And that's everyday stuff that people have that they have to deal with. And sometimes we go into situations not knowing that they're full of competition or they're full of conflict. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's something to be gained out of that. Like I worked with some people, a couple who were organizers, and one person in the couple was very difficult to work with. And the other person was like the Buddha, always willing to be accommodating. And things got so bad that I was at the place where I said to myself and to my husband, if that other partner goes, I'll sign a contract with them for a couple of years and work with them. But if the partner that's, the troublemaker stays, how can I sign with them? Like, how can I trust them? This person will, go off the deep end somewhere. So there's a quality of life that when you're in the records, you get information. Let's say you're going to hire an assistant and you are looking for specific qualities. You're maybe good at certain things and you're looking for somebody who's good at the things you're not good at. So you list those things that you always mess up. And I want an assistant that's going to love what she does and blah, blah, blah. Great lineup of what you're looking for. And then you ask about the 3 people that come in. You would actually get information about each one. And in fact, it would even be better to go in the records on that kind of a scenario before you interview them. So you would know what you were getting into before you got to know them and then think, oh, I'm just, reaching in my mind for my interview. Right. And I have business clients that do this all the time, that they call me about these kinds of things, their board, their employees. And I'll give you an example. Last week I had a client where she was asking about an employee of a certain kind of category. And I couldn't get a good read on it. And I said, I'm not getting a good read. And I said, I don't think it's a good match for you. And I said, she said, well, she's the only applicant I have. And I've got to get this thing covered, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, then let's start asking the universe to bring you more people. But if you do end up hiring her, because you got to be covered, be prepared that she's not a match and that you're going to have to make some adjustments because she won't. And knowing that at the outset is very helpful, so that if she did have to, have her situation covered, she would at least be able to adapt to the fact that this person wasn't very likely to adapt to their system.
It sounds like to me, like I've used different things like astrology and tarot and all of these other things to try to divine certain advice or where certain energy flows to try to figure out what's going on. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like to me that you could probably just use the Akashic Records without having to do all this other stuff, maybe?
Yes, and I first want to go back to that story I was telling you. I heard from the employer a week later, and she said the woman never even showed up for her interview, which was very interesting. And then she had 3 more candidates, and, I gave her info on that. Now, going back to what you just said, absolutely. And the cool thing is the record keepers are precise as well as broad-based. So they can answer questions. When you pull cards, when you're using divination or the I Ching or whatever, you still have to interpret those images, those words,
right?
Those hexagrams. But if you're in the records, they're giving it to you, usually in words or sometimes in pictures. And so your capacity to understand your next move is a lot easier. That's why I like to call it an open book test, because it really is the answer key to what you're looking for in life. And again, the cool thing is you don't have to do what you're being offered. But what you're being offered often is the best case scenario. Is the best case scenario. I shouldn't say often. It is the best case scenario. So sometimes you listen and sometimes you don't. And that's okay too, because we have free will. We have free will. And we have the ability to choose whatever we want.
But so
it's amazing.
That doesn't take away the cause and effect, because there's a good question in the chat about, well, if there's no karma, what does that mean? We can just go around and do whatever we want, bad things and stuff. That's a good question.
It is a good question, and the fact is, the more you choose to not be looking at everybody else's behavior, the more you're going to attract people who are also like you, choosing to be 5D. And when there are no more people playing out the role of karma, there won't be any more players, and the game will end. So, in the case of this person, wants to keep a bad person from doing stuff, they will have their day, certainly. And the idea of karma was never meant to be a controlling thing. It's like the churches and the spiritual energies have used these tools to control us and to make us fearful. But a thief or a killer are going to do those things because they don't believe in those things. So telling them there's no more karma isn't going to change them. They're still going to do it anyway. And what happens is we're going to be pulling ourselves out of those kinds of environments so we don't get caught in that. And the minute you could do anything, you don't want to do anything because you know better. It's on you to be the self-policing.
Yeah, I was reading that book, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and I just found some of that stuff. I'm not saying that the man didn't talk to God, but he kind of talked about the same things, like, do whatever you're going to do, because really it's kind of like when a parent says, don't touch that, that's hot or whatever. They're not really, they're not really getting on to you because touching that is wrong. They're worried about the result, right? So it's really more about what happens when you do those things. That's why people don't want you to do these things. And that's a whole different topic. But So if you do something
certainly
bad, there's a cause and effect to it always, you know.
Well, certainly society needs integrity rules to encourage people to understand what they need to do or not do. But it is also true that if everybody stopped operating in that system, we wouldn't be able to choose to do bad things. It wouldn't occur to us. We'd have so much love for one another. And we wouldn't need to. You know, a lot of times people do stupid stuff or, you know, steal from one another because they don't have enough, or they think they don't have enough, or they're afraid they don't have enough. And so when these things happen, you know, you have to
notice why. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of things in the that it is drawn from fear, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of things.
Mean, you know, a lot of people won't even buy, you know, you found an artist to make your logo. We talked about this off the air. And I was very curious because I really like it. I think it's a really cool looking logo. But there are people that will just, you know, go online and copy art that they don't own. They don't have the right to do that. Right. And I'm not talking about, there's plenty of free art on the internet. There's no problem there. But there's also plenty of art that's for sale that people take. And, you know, it's okay. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested in doing that because I don't want anyone to steal from me. And that's the deal. I don't want to steal art from somebody else and save myself money or time because I don't want them ripping me off, you know, selling my stuff.
I get you. This is really, really cool. I always learn a lot when I talk to you about, especially practical stuff about consciousness. You know, I get addicted to the intellectual travel and seeing all the mysterious stuff and learning into mysteries. But, you know, we should tap into this stuff every day to make our lives easier. I mean, why not? And exactly. When I mean easier, like a better, hopeful, fulfilling life. And I'm really glad you wrote this book. Can people get it at Amazon and your website too? Where can they find the book at?
The Akashic Records book, Opening the Akashic Records book, is for sale at Amazon. It's on pre-sale. It's due to be released April 5th. Pre-order it and you'll get it a little bit early. And, you know, then read it and write a review. I'd love it if you'd write a review for me.
And you got any events coming up that you're going to be at?
Yes, I do, actually. I'm going to be in Sedona for the equinox. And I think something really amazing is happening on the equinox. So I'm excited about that. Then I'm going to be in a 5D event in April. I'm going to be teaching in China for 3 weeks between those two things. And then in May, I'm taking a group to Egypt, and then in June, I got a full plate here.
Man, you got a lot going on. So you're going to be at Suzanne Ross's Beyond the Matrix. Event, is that the one you're going to be at? Okay.
Yeah, Beyond the Matrix. Yeah, that's going to be an amazing event.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other reason why I wanted to get on the show before I left, because I'm going to be gone all week. I'm working with a couple of people there on some projects, and I'm visiting some family in Arizona. So, yeah, it's going to be a full week, but a really amazing week. When I was at Conscious Life Expo in February, out of my mouth came the words that something really big was happening on March 21st.
The equinox, yeah.
And but not just the equinox, something really big. And I haven't asked. I need to go in the records and ask them what were they talking about, because people are talking a lot about some big thing happening soon, and I got the message and took it down, but I obviously haven't pursued it. I need to pursue that. So.
Well, I know it's going to be a blast, and you can. And if y'all don't get to go to that, you're not in Sedona. There is an option to live stream that conference too, if you guys want. So you can live stream it as well. So yeah, I know Suzanne's been really excited, been talking about it, really pushing it. She's really, really excited about it. And I'm jealous because I know you guys are going to have fun.
Oh, I know. I think we're going to have an amazing time. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm very happy to know she's live streaming it because I had not gotten that news. She probably told us and I didn't see it. Not that she didn't tell us. So well, I'm glad somebody told me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, even though you were supposed to be here Monday, but the station crashed, so we rescheduled, and you took the time for us and my audience before you left, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
It is my pleasure. And remember to always ask for a day of heaven on earth for you and everyone you come in contact with.
Awesome. Right on. You guys go to the website, MaureenSt.Germain.com, grab the book, pre-order the book, leave an awesome review, and we'll be right back with Tito Abao. We're going to be talking about parallel lives and reincarnation. Stay with us.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone. This is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
This is Paranormal News. I'm Ryan Gable of The Secret Teachings. 2019 has already seen 3 Loch Ness Monster sightings, 2 of them very recently within just 5 days of each other. The second sighting was seen by a visitor on the afternoon of February 23rd in Urquhart Bay. According to LochNessSightings.com, the witness says she saw a dark-colored creature rise about 3 feet out of the water for about 10 to 15 seconds before disappearing back under the surface. The third sighting was spotted by a man watching a webcam on the afternoon of February 27th. There were 15 reported sightings of the Loch Ness Monster last year, including 5 in August alone. Could goblins be to blame for tormenting a village in Zimbabwe? Locals say whatever it is responsible for the deaths of 2 children, dozens of livestock, and crops. A prophet vanquished the creatures, but now they're back. Residents are worried they won't be able to fully get rid of the goblins, who strike in the middle of the night. Villagers are raising money for an even more powerful sorcerer to vanquish the menace once and for all. Read these stories and more at paranormalradio.com. In for John Jeter, I'm Ryan Gable, Paranormal News.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
So we're back here. It's going to be a wonderful evening of learning how to be an effective explorer of consciousness. We just got through speaking with Maureen St.Germain about her new book, Opening Up The Akashic Records. I really want to thank her for coming on because we had originally scheduled her to come on Monday night, and after we had to issue the radio station, she really was really busy, but she still made time for us, and so that was really great of her, and I really appreciate that. Go grab her book and leave a good review too, because it's going to be, if it's anything like her first book, you're going to want to for sure. So all right, so we're going to change gears here just a little bit different of a subject matter, but it's related. We're going to be talking about parallel lives as well as a little bit of reincarnation and everything that has to do with that. Now, Tito Abao is with us, and he has over 50 years of experience in spiritual work and is the author of the monograph of the parallel life of Tito Abao and Nero. In the early 60s, Tito became an initiate in a Christian yoga church where he studied Sri Subramaniya. He'll probably correct me on that. After several years in the order, he went on to become an architectural draftsman until resuming his quest for spiritual liberation after a near-death experience in 2007. Now, Tito completed the majority of his metaphysical training at the Monroe Institute, which we all know and love here, a school that is dedicated to heightened conscious learning located in Faber, Virginia. The author's lifelong interactions with the paranormal, as well as his out-of-body and recurring past life dreams and memories, are what we're going to be discussing tonight. Thank you so much, Tito, for coming on the program, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So tell me about your book. Tell me about what this is about. I want to know, because just the title, The Monograph of the Parallel Life of Tito Abao and Nero, right there tells me the first thing that hits my mind, because I have to be honest, I haven't read it. The first thing that hits my mind is, did this guy, you had a parallel life? Is that what you experienced? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, we're talking about a reincarnation chain of events. And the actual beginning for me was around 7,000 years ago. And when I entered the what I call the dual universe, it wasn't a very pleasant experience. I'm not going to go into that because that's not what the book is about. What the book is about is there was a series of, I'm sure your audience is aware of the between life agreements, and the law of reincarnation revolves around these agreements.
Mm-hmm. The contracts.
Right. There's these what my work does is validate an idea that's been around for a long time. I mean, I didn't invent it, but I ran into it. And the first thing I need your audience to get a concept of, because I'm not sure that people understand the actual function of consciousness. So what I'm going to do is give you my definition of it so that we can kind of think around the way I developed it. So consciousness is a constant. It is self-perpetuating, constantly reincarnating itself in mathematically precise storylines built from between-life agreements of Googleplexes of unique, finite egos. Reincarnation is the rule, not the exception. Now, I'm sure your audience is familiar with the word Googleplexes because of the computer technology is pretty much broadly known. But just to clarify what that means is that's one of the largest numbers that we have a name for. And these between-life agreements are built around individuals having an agreement to have a certain kind of life experience. And I'm going to, what I want to try to do is just assume your audience is going to follow along with what I'm talking about. Because,
go ahead.
Because I need to go to a teacher in the 1890s. His name was Ramana Maharshi. And he created this aphorism. And what it says is, all happens within the little bubble of consciousness called I. And what he's trying to say there is that each individual, as we decide to divide and see each other as separate individuals to play this game that we call the universe, we develop an ego that says, I am Tito Abao, and I see and talk to Joseph Rupa.
Right.
I hope I pronounced your name.
Yeah, you did.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So what we're talking about is a concept called duality. And duality is the mind-created labeling system that enables you to believe that the world is separate from you. We could not play this game unless we believed that the world is separate, that there's a you out there and there's a me here.
I'm with you so
far. But in
far.
reality, there is no actual duality, but we create this belief system and we adhere to certain kinds of conditioning in order to play this game. Okay. Now, I want to direct your audience to a Rubik's Cube. I'm sure everybody knows about the Rubik's Cube. And what the Rubik's Cube is a square that has all these colors, all these different colors. And when you move these colors around, they change relationships to one another. So what I'm trying to tell everybody is the universe is just one consciousness. And what the consciousness does when you divide and you decide to believe that you are an ego, then you have all these other egos functioning. But they all function in relation to each other. And that is called what I call I didn't invent the word, but it's called the law of karma, the law of cause and effect.
Right.
And one of the most basic, and I know that your audience is very familiar with the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is actually not a homily, and it's not a suggestion. It's a karmic law. Now, 2,000 years ago, this is what the book, this particular book is about. I ordered the execution of my mother, Agrippina, for sedition. Now, this is not going to sound very good to people because we're talking about somebody killing somebody, but it was legal. She was involved in a plot against me as the emperor, and she was definitely going to do me in. But the problem is there's another rule thou shalt not kill.
Yeah, right.
And it took 2,000 years for me to have this reverse situation go on, where I had a between life agreement that I was going to take care of my mother in this lifetime. Her name was Dolores M. Hall. But in that lifetime, her name was Agapina. And she had this unbelievable fear of going into a home. Now, we don't have enough time to go into all the details of how all this came about, because my lifetime, this lifetime, was held in suspension. In other words, if I had a normal life in which I was an architectural draftsman, I could have gotten a license as an architect, and I could have had a life in which I probably was quite. Matter of fact, well, I'm not going to go into that detail, but right now. But
when did you know this, though, Tito? Did you know this from birth, or did you have an experience that led you to this?
No. This is like, well, let's put it this way: when I had my near-death experience, I came under internal guidance or spiritual guidance.
Okay, all right.
And that's how I got led to the Monroe Institute, and I got between 5 and 6 certified classes there. And what happened was, when they put you through the routines, I would keep coming up with this relationship to Nero, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And when you go to one of these classes, the classes have about 26 people, and they only have so much time. So you can tell a little bit about your story or whatever it is that you share with the audience, but you can't go into it in depth. So what I had to do, since I knew that I was probably this character 2,000 years ago, I went into regression therapy. Now, I'd like to guide your audience from the point of view of having a safe regression group that they can go to. Now, everybody's going to have a different approach, but if you've never done it before, I had 3 regression therapists over 11 years, and all 3 of them were certified by Dr. Brian Weiss and Dr. Michael Newton Schools.
Okay.
So I had, they were businesslike. It was an exchange of money from me for the service. They didn't try to rope me into something else.
Well, Michael Newton, in my opinion, has got a lot of credibility. So does Brian Weiss.
Right.
So
yeah, that's what I'm trying to make sure that people, if they don't have a complete confidence in the people they're going to deal with, and they're going to pay attention to what I'm telling them, I'm guiding them to the Brian Weiss and Dr. Newton certified practitioners. But also, I'm also saying that if you go to the Monroe Institute and you're going to awaken to a lot of different things. Now, I'm not sure that you're going to awaken into past lives, but you're definitely going to have out-of-body experiences and all that sort of thing, and you're going to relate to the other planes. And this is one of the things that's happening in the current era. Without going into a lot of detail, we're actually moving into higher states of consciousness. That's why all this stuff is coming about, because the higher states are going to be really powerful places, and every individual is going to have a unique relationship. Now, I call it Source. Now, your audience probably recognizes it as God, but that's where we're headed.
I mean, we've got quite a bit of people that believe a lot of different things. So, yeah.
Right. That's why I don't want to step on anybody's toes. But the term I use is Source.
Sure.
But I'm talking about God. I'm not trying to say that there's some other deity. It's just one God. That's why I say the Rubik's Cube is the perfect thing to look at and keep moving this around and see how those colors relate to each other and realize that there's nothing outside of consciousness.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. Actually, that's a very easy concept for me and my audience to understand. So my question is, I think, this isn't necessarily like a parallel life, like you're living a separate life with somebody right now, but this was a past life where you were Nero, and that you did something to your mother.
I awakened to a chain of events.
Okay.
That actually go back 7,000 years. Now I'm going to introduce some things I'm not sure your audience is necessarily going to be aware of, but you don't come into the universe willy-nilly. You come in through a vortex. And who you really are, see, I'm going to introduce this concept. You are not a body. You are not a mind. You are a spiritual being. And as this spiritual being, you decide you want to have certain experiences. And that's what I'm talking about, the between life agreements. And that's what karma is all about. So when you look at the Rubik's Cube, you're looking at a cause and effect consciousness called duality. Now, there's another state of mind, which is called non-duality, which you no longer are affected by the law of cause and effect, but you become the observer of the cause and effect world. It's all one. I mean, there's no separations. It's a hard concept to actually grasp, but there is nothing outside of yourself. That's why the law of karma works the way it does, because it is impossible for you to harm anybody except yourself.
Yeah.
Now, there's a spiritual teacher who tells the story about being in an airport, and this person came up and shoved a gun in her chest and says, "I'm going to shoot you." And her first thought, she said, was, "I hope he does not do this to himself." Because as a spiritual being and a realized being herself, she understood that he can't kill her. He can only kill himself. But as my book shows, I'm going to use my experience as a guideline. It took me 2,000 years to solve this problem between Agrippina and myself. Now, remember what we're talking about. Nero, Agrippina. Agrippina was Nero's mother, who was involved, who decided I wasn't doing a good job and she was going to get rid of me and put somebody else in power. But I got wind of the plot, and in those days, I took her out.
Yeah.
But it's against the law. It's against karmic law. And it took 2,000 years for this thing to work itself out. And so in this lifetime, my whole lifetime was set up so that by the time she was ready to be taken care of, I would not have any encumbrances. And I had never developed enough financial resources that I could be independent and said, well, I'm not going to take care of you, but I'm going to hire this other person to do it. The whole point of this between life agreement was I had personal hands-on responsibility for guiding and taking care of my mother from the time she was ready to be taken care of until the time she died. And that was the resolution. And I don't want your audience to believe that that was the only thing that was the only event. Because remember, we are dealing with the 2,000-year cycle. So a whole bunch of stuff happened in there where she killed me.
So you had several different lives in between,
right?
Where you were working this out.
Which she actually had me executed.
Okay.
But the nexus of the whole thing came in 1936 when I was born, and she was my mother. And this whole thing was designed that this is the final payment. So what happens is in this 7,000-year cycle, in 1936, I came to the end of it. So at this point in time, I have a choice. I can continue in other timelines going forward, or I can attempt to attain spiritual liberation or enlightenment. And my goal is, of course, to attain spiritual liberation and enlightenment.
So you're done with the earthly lives after this one?
Well, I'm not. I still have to let go because the dual universe is like a drug, and you hang on to all these events. And I don't know if your audience is familiar with the concept of a dark night of the soul.
Oh, absolutely.
The dark night of the soul is that process of making a decision that you're done with the dual universe And what you're going to do is to let go of everything. Because as long as you stay in the dual universe, the law of cause and effect is always going to be pulling you one way or the other. And as I said before, do unto others as you would have them do unto you is the actual law itself. So now I think I want to introduce a case history here, which will explain something about the complications that human beings get involved in. I want to make sure your audience doesn't think that the man whose case history I'm going to describe is the actual guy that had this experience that's historically in the history books. But this gentleman, or soul, or being, decided he wanted to know what it was like to lead men to their deaths in an ambush. And Source, God, found between 10 and 20,000 men or beings that were willing to give him this experience and wanted to experience being led to their deaths in an ambush. Huh. So there's a historical precedent that Octavius, who was actually the first Roman emperor, he sent a gentleman by the name of Quintus Varius with 5 legions, which is roughly about 8,000 or 9,000 men, to the Rhine, the German Rhine, to subdue the German tribes. And what happened with Quintus Varius was he became friends with the German tribesmen. Now, I can't tell you, I don't know the history, I don't remember all the history of it, whether the tribesman was a chief or whether he was just a well-connected guy. But the guy convinced Quintus Varius that, we'll welcome you with open arms, So Quintus Varius marched 5 legions into the forest without doing the normal military things. The right military thing to do is you don't just believe. You send out scouts. You try to find spies and find out what's going on. But he believed the guy lock, stock, and barrel.
You got to deploy a little recon. You don't just take people's word
but
for
he didn't do that. He just believed. And he marched the 5 legions in there, and of course they were annihilated. So there's a apocryphal kind of black humor connected to this final end of this, how Octavius found out about it. One of the centurions arrived back in Rome, and he had an audience with Octavius, and he says, everybody died in the forest of Germany. And after Octavius about fainted and cried and banged on walls, he looked at the guy and says, how come you're alive?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that happened.
Yeah, but you made it back safe, right? Yeah, I get it.
but yeah. Well, how come you're here,
Now, is this something that you experienced or something?
No. I'm trying to explain that this is a case history.
Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure that this is
This is in the chronicles of research.
The history books, yeah.
No, it's a researcher that was a regressionist, and she had a client that had problems advancing in his profession.
Which researcher?
Well, I can't give you the name now because I forgot it, but I always remember this. So, but anyway, she lives in Germany, and I'm trying to explain what the between life agreements are. I mean, you and I are not going to decide to die and lead people to their deaths.
No, I was thinking about that too.
This guy had this, but the astonishing thing is Source or God found 8,000 men who wanted to have that experience. So what I'm trying to do is reinforce with your audience the fact that you're in a dual universe because you want to experience certain things. And this is the trap of the dual universe, and the fact that the law of cause and effect, and it just, as you sow, so shall you reap. And that's why the flowback. He was receiving the flowback of something he had done before. Now, his case history only dealt with this one, so I don't know what the rest of his life problems were or his life agreements were, because he was just dealing with this one agreement. because that was the basis of his inability to advance in these corporate situations where he would get to a certain level, but he would always fail to move to the next level. And it had to do with this incident in his past when he was not having a positive attitude, but wanting to experience.
Yeah, I get the fundamental of this, what you're saying. We're at the top of the hour here, but it sounds to me like, real quick, that as a soul, we come into this life with certain contracts and certain things we're working out, but we also come into this life to live certain experiences that we want to have, because, you know, in the spiritual realm, I guess they're just concepts, but here we can actually live them out, if that's what you're saying. So we want to have these experiences. I got you. What I want to do is when we come back is get a little bit more into your story, and then I might get into some questions and stuff. But we're here with Tito Abao, and we're talking about his new book, which is a pretty fascinating discussion so far, the monograph of the parallel life of Tito Abao and Nero. We'll be right back.
This is Al. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening. Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
You know, food was different 60 years ago. It was minimally processed, free of pesticides. It was nourishing and healthful for your body. Today, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and heavy processing have depleted the nutrition of our food supply, which takes a toll on our health and energy. It's harder than ever to get the right nutrition. That's what Life Change Tea is meant to counteract. Our specially blended, powerful herbal formulas can give you more energy without caffeine. It's a mild cleanse, a mild daily detox. A good detox can help revive and bring back the energy of your youth. GetTheTea.com is the website. It'll cleanse you from the inside out with this herbal proprietary formula. Go to GetTheTea.com. There's no fillers, no GMOs. It's organic. Not available in stores. You must go to their website, getthetea.com. And their supplements are a great way to maintain your health. Read the testimonials on the website. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up, because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in. The Fringe FM.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a lot. This story, past lives, parallel lives, consciousness, the great I am. We're the I's and consciousness is the I am. It is a lot of what we've talked about on this show. We're here with Tito Abao, and we're discussing this new book. I get what you're saying about all this. I really do. And it's only based on, like I was telling you during the break, it's only based on my studies of Michael Newton and Robert Monroe, Neil Donald Walsh, that consciousness just wants to experience certain things. Even Alex Jones, God bless his heart, said it on he said it on Joe Rogan, which, he was like, God knows everything except for who God is. So he wants to come down here and experience all these different things through all these different lives, so to define what consciousness wants, right? So through experience and all of these different things, which I get what you're saying. But it does, when people start talking about, well, what's good or bad, and you get into, well, there's really no good or bad, there's just duality. I understand that, but it's a hard subject for people to grasp,
Well, that's the connected to deciding you want to follow a different path. Now, if you want spiritual freedom, then you have to move into the non-dual reality in which you become the observer. In other words, everything is there. Everything is going to happen exactly the way that the karma is designed. Because, as I said, there's nothing outside of this Rubik's Cube. I call upon your audience. I'm sure many of you people in the audience have one of these things. So they can look at it and start moving it around and see that those colors are all, no matter how you move it, those colors are related to each other. They just have different positions.
So what year were you born in again, if you don't mind me asking?
1936. No, well, it's part of the book.
So you were born in 1936, right?
Right.
Did all of this come to you in 2007? Is that when you really started going on this journey?
Well, I can go. I think we might have time enough for me to go into the first time this happened.
Yeah.
In the 1960s, I'm from San Francisco originally, so I was right there in the middle of the Flower Child movement, and these people were all interested in self-improvement, but they were doing it through drugs. And I thought, well, geez, I don't like that drug idea. I don't like losing my control of myself. So I ran into this thing called biofeedback. So I decided to go into the self-improvement aspect of biofeedback. And so I was sitting in the consultation. You see, it's just like going through with a psychiatrist. You sit but only thing is, I wasn't laying down on a couch.
You weren't doing any Scientology going clear stuff.
No, that stuff. No. But what happened is we were doing the biofeedback thing where you go into a meditative state and that stuff when you're listening to the sounds and all that sort of thing. And so suddenly my arm shot out and I said, "Hail Caesar."
Oh, wow.
And she was a Jewish practitioner, and she thought I said Heil Hitler.
Oh, no.
And she was totally shocked and flabbergasted. And she looked at me and she said, "What did you say?" I said, "Hail Caesar," and I just blurted out, I was Nero.
That was in 96 when you were doing biofeedback.
1960.
It's 1960, sorry.
It's in the 60s. I can't give you exact dates or time months.
No, I understand.
It was in the 60s when I first encountered this. So we tried to work with it a little bit, but that wasn't her thing. Her thing was the biofeedback thing, and what you work with biofeedback is kind of like the hemisync thing, but it's different. You're listening to a sound, a white sound, and you're trying to go into a meditative state.
Gotcha.
So we were not able to do anything there. But as I went through my life, I kind of ran into, when I had my near-death experience is when everything started to change. Because the near-death experience, now, I guess I can introduce this idea. See, I didn't have my near-death experience until after my mother died. Because when my mother died, that ended the agreement. So there was no point in me being alive. I mean, I fulfilled the between life agreement. So one night when I laid down to go to sleep, I started dying. And I knew I was dying. And it felt really great. And I was ready to leave. And all these I was kind of in like a hospital room and a bed and all that stuff. And all these beings were working like crazy on me. And I kept telling them, "Leave me alone, man. This is great. I want to go. I'm ready. I'm done." And this voice says, "Please don't die." Now, then what happened is today I don't remember saying yes. Okay, I don't remember agreeing not to die. But now that I know more about the causal plane, I know that everything that happens in the physical plane that we're in right now all started in the causal plane. But the causal plane is very difficult for an ego to penetrate and remember. I only remember it twice. And so I wouldn't be here unless I had agreed, because the voice said, "Please don't die." So when I came back, everything changed. I was very different. Now, I'm kind of looking at it from a 20-year difference, you know. So I can't tell you exactly that's what I was thinking at the time. But then I came under what I call guidance. And I was guided to the library in San Francisco. And I got this book from Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body.
That's my favorite book.
Yeah, and what I did was, for months, I kept going to the library every day, reading that book. And at one point, I seemed to have got it. And all the time I was reading this book, I never saw the ad in the event at the end of the page, at the end of the book. I never read that. It was there.
About the Monroe Institute?
Not to read. Yeah.
Right.
And when I had completely absorbed everything, then I saw it. And then I went to the Monroe Institute following that ad. And that's when everything started to happen.
So you had the near-death experience.
Yeah, I died. I actually died.
Another thing I find fascinating about, you said you saw these beings and you heard kind of voices.
Yeah, they were working on me.
If you look into, you could go to YouTube nowadays, and I'm not advocating DMT or doing any types of drugs, but these people that were taking ayahuasca or DMT, there's countless experiences where people talk about that, where they're laying down and they said that they could see some type of, like, the curve or whatever, and certain beings were above them and they could hear them talking and all kinds of stuff. That's when enough people say it, kind of like the Michael Newton deal, you get enough parallels, there's got to be something to it.
Well, I always tell people when they talk, they tell me about reincarnation, can you prove it? I said, no, I can't prove it to you. But you prove it to yourself. If you get regressed and you find out you lived before, then you know you didn't die. I'm trying to tell people there is no death. It's impossible for you to die. You drop a body, you change the story, the story evaporates and comes to an end like that. My agreement to take care of my mother, Agrippina, Dolores M. Hall, in this life, who was Agrippina in 37 AD, and who I had executed. Now, in this life, 2,000 years later, I had to become her complete and total caregiver. And that had to be hands-on. It couldn't be just me being a wealthy individual hiring nurses. This had to be a hands-on thing. And this is the way the agreement was. This is the way Source worked it out. Because I'm not stupid. There was no reason why I couldn't have made my way through the world. I was an architectural draftsman. I worked on the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and I did high-rises in 3rd and Market for the Marriott hotels. But for some peculiar reason, and of course I know what it is now, the agreement was that I would never be completely, totally self-sufficient. I had to be in a position that I could only do the one thing. When Dolores M. Hall became incapacitated and was ready to be taken care of full-time, I was there, and that was my job. And when that job was over, I died. But apparently Source had a different goal for me.
So can you tell me at all about some of the, maybe one or two of the things that happened to you at the Monroe Institute? Did you have out-of-body experiences?
Oh, yeah. I was a traveler, and the one that was interesting from the point of view of the Monroe Institute was, if people don't, can I explain to people how this works?
Sure, yeah.
They have these cubicles, and it's a bed situation. You lay in there, you put on headphones, and you listen to the binaural sounds, and Monroe, he's passed away, but he's all on tape, and each one of these things has tape of him guiding you through the focus levels. Well, one of my experiences was the walls disappeared, and the guy in the next room, I saw him, and I said something to him that I didn't remember. But we had a conversation. But I didn't. When I came back and I tried to talk to the people, and see what happens is after when you finish with the focus levels, moving through the different focus levels, you go into a big room and everybody sits around and shares their experience. He didn't remember it. I remembered it, but I didn't remember what I said to him. We had a regular conversation, but I couldn't remember what we said.
I've got to go.
All I remember is that the
Monroe
walls
Institute.
disappeared. The walls disappeared.
I've got
and
to
there
go.
he was.
I've got the whole Gateway program here. I saved up my money and got it. It was pretty expensive when I got it. It's a little cheaper now. And I've gotten to focus level 10, the vibrating state where you're still awake and the body falls asleep. But I haven't had too many experiences out of the body. I've had a few. But I think there's something about going to the Institute that really helps you.
When you go to the Institute, it's all designed for you to have that experience. When you're by yourself, it's a little because now when I say that I want to make sure that when I say things to people, this is not meant as an insult or it's bad or it's just that you're too dense.
Right.
And one of the things, now I don't recommend this for people who have diabetes or any. Well, I think what you should do is talk to your doctor. When I explain what you can do on your own, is to have long fasts. And what happens when you have the long fasts, you lose contact with your body. Your physical body becomes weak, and it's in a very attenuated state. Because when you're in the dual, remember what I'm telling you, this is the definition. Duality is a mind-created labeling system that enables you to believe that the world is separate from you. Now, remember what happens when you get born into a body, you accept the conditioned mind. Life shows up for you as consciousness forgets itself and collapses into the finite conditioned mind. And you accept all this conditioning, and that holds you into the physical plane. And unless you actually step on a spiritual path, the only thing you ever see really is the world as it is right there that you were conditioned to see. You see walls, you see a refrigerator, you see your TV screen, but you don't see the spiritual aspect of it. Because when you lose the connection to the physical universe, everything starts to evaporate. And everything becomes like molecules. It doesn't have a form anymore. And I think a lot of people have these experiences, don't realize it, and they think they're going crazy, and they end up with a psychiatrist and taking all these pills.
Well, I can tell that you've had an experience. I can definitely tell it, because I have.
Well, I'm trying to tell you that's what will happen to you if you start losing your connection to your physical body and start not believing the labeling system.
Yeah, and that would explain a lot of the reasons why, in the old text, in the spiritual gurus, even Christ and all these other people, they would fast for long periods of time.
Oh, yeah, the 40 days and nights in the desert, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not your familiar. I don't know if you're deeply into the Bible, but but there's that 40 days and 40 nights, and then what do you think Jesus is saying to the devil? Get thee behind. That's the physical being.
Right.
He's getting rid of his body. Get thee behind me. I'm a spiritual being. I'm not a physical body. When you read the Bible in this particular instant, he's saying, look, if you stick with me, I'll give you all of this. And he shows them the world. I had the world. I was Nero. I was the emperor of Rome. So what did it get me? It got me a kick in the ass.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so you can see through that story once you've had the experience.
Oh, yeah,
really
I see through it because I'm never going there again. It took me 2,000 years to get rid of that mess.
Yeah. That's very intense, man. And like the experiences you've had, and you figured out that's kind of the stuff I want to figure out.
Well, you will when you decide that you want to collapse the finite mind.
But there is, when you talk about being dense, I totally understand what you're saying, because this is
not meant to be an insult.
Right. No, it takes a lot of relaxation and focus.
All you see when you open your eyes is the physical universe, then you're dense.
Yeah, and it does.
But it doesn't mean that there's anything bad about it.
No.
It just means that you have decided to live in the conditioned mind that labels everything to enable you to see everything as that.
Well, also, to get to that state, in my experience, it takes a lot of. That's what those the discs and everything help you do, is to get to a focus point.
Exactly. It helps you to reduce the physical universe to what it really is: molecules. It's an illusion.
Oh boy, but so that implies a lot. So even the people, so think about this, right? Even the people that you can't stand in your life, you're really just looking at parts of yourself that you don't like.
That's right.
That's it.
You're looking at you.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing outside of yourself.
Now, did you meet any types of entities or anything other than humans?
Oh yeah, I had. Now, I don't know if your audience is going to think there's something wrong with it. But,
no, man, we're into all the weird stuff here.
I had what is known as astral sex with some being that and the way astral sex works is you merge.
Yeah, like Monroe talked about that.
And you have this splash, but it feels really great. And when I had it, I did it, but most of the stuff you're supposed to be agreeing to it. I don't remember agreeing to it, but I didn't mind that it happened.
Well, That depends on, we'll see. That's all subjective too, right? Like, it probably happened so fast.
In other words, there wasn't a no concept in my mind.
Yeah, that I totally get
Although
that.
there wasn't also a yes concept.
It
just happened.
Did you learn, like Preston Dennett, Robert Monroe, and other people have talked about, once they travel quite frequently, that they have to learn how to get past that urge or deal with it before they can move on and do anything?
That's part of what they call the dark night of the soul. You kind of unwinding, I call it unwinding your relationship to the physical universe. I mean, I'm going to introduce some ideas here that your audience may have to think about it. But you know how the Islamic people have the women cover up?
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole point. They're supposed to, but it doesn't work.
Right.
They're as horny as anybody else. But they have all these rules that women are supposed to cover up, but it didn't stop them from raping them.
Yeah, you're right about that.
But that's what it's about. That's why Muhammad did that. He said, "Okay, you can cover the women up. You won't be excited as much." But when you look at what these guys are up to out there in the ISIS and all that stuff and their sex parties, they didn't quite follow the rules.
So, do you ever go back to that life with Nero, or can you go back and experience any of this stuff?
I'm trying to drop it. That's the whole point. My book is my path to unwinding that energy. That see, all that is an energy bubble. Remember what I said in the opening? All happens within the little bubble of consciousness called I.
Right.
My ego. Everything happens inside of that. And when you're attached to things, you get stuck in them. And you keep running out the karma of it. Now, when you're on the spiritual path and you want to become a liberated being, then you have to let all of that go. You have to lose interest in the drama of the life path that you're on, and then you start shifting out of thinking into stillness.
This is all fascinating stuff. Actually, it's what you're talking about. I know several times you've said, I don't know if your audience is going to be able to understand, but what you're talking about is the epitome of what we talk about on this show. Actually, it's what we get to most of the time.
I never know what the audience is going to be like,
Yeah,
but I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to tell you exactly as I see it.
Well, and I would think too. And let me ask you this: since you were born in 36, right? Is that what you said? 36. Right. So, yeah. A lot of people are saying that consciousness is awakening. More people are awakening to consciousness and all of that stuff. In your experience, is that true? Do you think more people are waking up? That
absolutely, because none of this would be happening to me if I wasn't awakening into the kind. Now, I'm going to also introduce something that probably your audience knows about. It was December 12th, 2012, that we passed out of the Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
And we moved into now they called it something different because they were using the Mayan calendar, but it just was the end of the Kali Yuga cycle. But now we're in the Dwapara Yuga cycle, and it's going to last about 3,000 years, and then there's another level above it, which is an even higher state. And in that next higher state, you're going to be able to see and talk to angels.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, we have a woman. I don't know. You may have heard of her, Lorna Bryn.
Not familiar with her.
She's Irish. She's an Irish woman who wrote a book called "I See Angels."
No, but I would like to talk to her.
Right. Well, you just connect with her on the internet through the she has a website out there. But anyway, that's the way people are going to relate. They're going to see. They're going to because that's the plane. That's one of the planes you get that Monroe takes you to, the causal plane. And one of the early exercises, he took us all to heaven. And when I went into heaven, I could see all of the stuff up there.
So you got to meet Robert himself, huh?
No. I never know. I was just dealing with him through the tapes.
I got you.
He was long deceased by the time I got there.
What a fascinating guy, huh? Changed a lot of things.
I'm sure,
but
I never actually met him myself.
Well, I mean, even his old lectures are on YouTube and stuff. So I feel like I got to personally know him a little bit after everything I've read and watched.
I mean, well, the thing is that he hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, that's one of my goals actually, is to go meet Robert Monroe.
You meet him out on the astral plane. I haven't, but other people have.
Well, I can't believe that nobody has any questions for this gentleman, but that's okay. We only got a few minutes left. We can still do a little bit more storytelling and get to a little bit more points about this. But we're taking our last break here, guys. I'm here with Tito Abao. We'll be right back.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon-Mal Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussel, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on The Fringe FM.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas, The Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tisi. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover, with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonderlight Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's FRINGE at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're live on the Fringe FM. We're here with Tito Abao. One of the things I've always wanted to do was go to the Monroe Institute. So when I hear about these stories, I'm locked in, man. It is one of my bucket lists. So I got this bucket list thing where I want to go to Egypt. I want to go to the Monroe Institute. And
I think you'll be fantastic in Egypt there.
Yeah,
if you want to go there, you had a life there.
Well, I've thought about that too. And when I hear people's stories about it, I get so hooked on it because I know it's real, man. This was one of the first times in my life where something totally what I considered to be supernatural, not normal, almost impossible, became real for me. And I've been kind of fixated on it. So, yeah, I'm very fascinated with your story. Yeah,
that's not, you had some lifetime there that was pretty, I don't know what it was, but it certainly is something that's pulling you to it.
So what is it that...
You probably wake up to some of the events.
So what is it that you are doing at this moment? Like, what are you trying to work out now? After all of this, are you...
Well, what I'm doing is unwinding the labeling system.
What do you mean?
Okay, let me explain something about how this all works. What happens is, for the normal human being, you are seeing the universe through lenses. Now, that is the modern concept that most of the spiritual teachers that are out there now that are actually realized beings, who actually have freed themselves from the dual universe and now live in the non-dual universe. You see, you create these... That's why you can't move out of your body very easily, because the lens that you're looking through is a physical body and it's very dense. So when you start getting... stop believing the labels, then the universe starts to look as it actually is. And I don't know if people are really grasping this, but when you are born, you are actually very, very spiritual. You're a spiritual being. And you have to be conditioned to accept the world around you, and your parents and your friends and the environment hammers it into you, and you accept it. So what happens is you get very dense. So, but they are lenses that you see. When I first had the experiences of releasing my connection to the physical universe, I saw 4 huge lenses. And they were like, they're clear, they're not like, they look like lenses that you would see in a camera. But inside that lens is a physical is a universe, and I call it a story. And the story is running in the lens. Now, because you accept the lens and you accept that labeling system, this holographic universe becomes solid. And when you find out that you are not the mind which creates those lenses, you start separating from it. And when you separate it from it, the world looks very different. It's brighter even. The colors are magnificent. The lenses actually reduce the reality to a fixed notion of what the label is. If you stop labeling things, I think that your audience may have some artists in it. And when you're in that state of collapsing the lenses, that's when this great art is produced. There was a famous artist by the name of Salvador Dali, and he would produce these weird pictures. Well, he was collapsing the lenses. But he was able to, because of skills and all that sort of thing, the natural skills of painting and stuff, he would put it on paper. And when he would put it on paper, he was unwinding it. But if you don't know you're unwinding it, you create more labels. The way the spiritual liberation thing works is you unwind it and you see things as they are, but you don't go back to it. Because the world is actually there. You know?
It makes me wonder about some of the abstract art. I've seen all kinds of abstract art, but it's like certain pieces really speak out to you. You know, they really lock into them.
Right, because what they're seeing, I don't know if your audience will be familiar with Dürer, but he would create these pieces that had all these forms in it. Well, that was all of his past lives. He was seeing all the pieces and the parts of his past lives, and he was putting it on paper. The work that he would do that had this particular motif was just seeing all his relationships throughout maybe 600 or 700 or 800 years. But when you look at the paintings, you see it's all a big jumble of forms that some don't actually necessarily relate to each other, but they're forms that you and I could recognize as a castle, as a horse, as a field. Whereas in Salvador Dali's paintings, it's all forms that you would not see in the physical universe if you were functioning in the physical universe. You might see it if you were in the astral.
Right.
You might see it that way in the astral. But
tell me a little bit more about, because this is something I've read in a lot of Western esoteric books where they call the serpentine line of force. You see the Fibonacci spiral. Is that related to what you're talking about when you talk about the vortex?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to talk about it in concrete terms because everybody sees it different.
Sure.
But remember, you're a unique ego because you've decided to bifurcate. So you see things a certain way. If I tell you what I see, you may not see it that way.
Yeah, but I still might want to know what you see.
Right. Well, I was trying to explain to you that when you look through these lenses, but the lenses are what keeps you in the dual universe. You have to collapse the lenses.
Could be wheels within wheels. Labeling.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I see. That's what I'm talking about. That you will create a intellectual concept based on the way you have actually conditioned your mind.
Right.
But I've seen the actual lenses, and the self-realization is the collapsing of those. Now I'm saying collapsing, but what happens is the lenses dissolve, and you see the universe as it really is. In other words, when I look out, as a realized being or an enlightened being, when he looks out at a tree, he sees the tree as it really is, not as what he's been taught to believe is an oak tree. because you just put a label on it. I mean, it's still an oak tree. It isn't ever other than an oak tree. But because you put a label on it, that lens of that label is sitting there, making that something that you're not seeing in its reality.
Because I get what you're saying, because you defined it and labeled it. Now it's
you're
become a
giving
belief
it a label.
and
Now
a
it's
wall
become
in
a
your
belief,
mind.
and it's solidified. But in reality, it's just a tree. But
if
it
you
looks
look at
exactly the same as an oak tree.
But my point is if you look at everything, and they've noticed this in sacred, I guess, geometry and stuff, when you look at everything, it does, even the inside of trees, how a tree comes out, how it sprouts, everything.
You can see
the
all
universe, your eyeballs, your fingerprint, your ear, it all has this Fibonacci spiral to it, like this vortex.
Well, everybody will see it in the way they're
That's the way
labeling.
I see it, I guess.
Right. You're labeling it in that way. But that's why I don't like to step on people's concepts, because, I mean, it's just, that's their idea. And it belongs to them, and they're seeing the universe in that way, through that lens.
But don't you think it's a problem, though, and this is happening as we speak, and I totally get what you're saying, that when they call these things like downloads, when they come to these aha moments, right? And then they go around and speak it as if it's truth, when maybe they might just be tapping into something a little bit more true than they already knew.
Right, because the it's all how you label it.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
It won't be anything other than I can tell you a story about a guy who had a contact with an Indian deity who he thought was not the most attractive woman. And but that deity guided him. But he could never see her as Barbara Eden. And I told him, I said, what if you wanted to see her as Barbara Eden? Don't you think she could be Barbara Eden? It's just the way she decided to appear to him, to show him that, look, you think I look a certain way, and I'm looking this way to straighten you out, you idiot. I can be whatever I want to be. I'm appearing to you because this is the thing that you don't want to actually see, but you relate to me. You see me as ugly. But I guide you. He wanted to see Barbara Eden, but that's not what he saw. But I told him, I said, look, just look at her a different way.
So after you had your near-death experience, is that what?
Yeah, that's when everything changed.
That's when everything really, really changed.
Well, I came under guidance. I came under inner guidance. I shifted into the inner guidance. But that's because the between life agreement, which was fulfilling the duality of the mind, I created this labeling system that said that I had this mission. It's not just all labels.
I'm almost afraid to figure out what I did 2,000 years ago, or even if I existed.
The thing is that that is a problem.
I bet it is.
That is a problem because I'm presuming that you're believing in things like goodness and helpfulness and that kind of stuff, and you don't like to see yourself as being a guy who did something that wasn't too nice.
Yeah, and if you look in history, that's the thing. Everybody wants to do these regressions in past lives. But I think we're evolving, so like if you look in history, a lot of people did a lot of bad things, like what we consider just crazy bad, that they weren't evolved enough, I guess you could say, consciously.
Well, you were moving through a timeline, and you were identifying with the story. And you had to be one of the beings in the story, whoever you decided to identify with, and then you followed that pattern of cause and effect there. That's all it is. You're just accepting the movie Matrix.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly where it works. Except the machinery. I mean, the guys that did the movie, they needed to have the machinery to tell the story. They couldn't do it. There was another movie called Lucy, that tried to do the abstract, which they successfully did, but the movie wasn't as popular as The Matrix, because there was a lot of stuff that people could identify with. The machinery connected to your head, and then when they turn on the machinery, you find yourself in the world. You remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
From The Matrix? Well, the thing is that what that is, in reality, that's exactly how it works, except there's no machines. There's only pathways through the brain.
Yeah, this is
and you come in through a vortex. And then I got stuck for 7,000 years going through the cause and effect relationships that I created.
You know, I think if anybody's having a problem with or having a hard time understanding this, I can't tell you how much I recommend reading Monroe's books, and a lot of the audience have. They picked it up and they found it fascinating, and they're all getting into it. But I'm really interested in the progression of things, like your story. Like, for instance, in the 60s, you said you became an initiate in a Christian yoga church. I've never even heard of that.
Well, it didn't last. It moved to Hawaii, and I didn't go with it.
And what was the name of it? Sri Subramania. What is it called?
Well, Subramania was the name of it. He was one of the early American spiritual beings that were realized. He was free from the physical universe, and then he was just being a terminal through which others could follow that path. I just happened to. Well, there are no accidents, so
sure.
There's a history there. That's another book.
So
my book is Monograph of the Parallel Life of Tito Abao and Nero on Amazon.com.
So let's see. I got a question here in the Fringe FM chat. I was thinking about this since he started. The guest said there's no more karma. Well, that was the other guest. That was the previous guest. Then he talks about karmic law. Can you ask him what he thinks about her comment or concept? So, yeah. So they're trying to figure out, is there really no more karma, or is there, right?
Well, if you shift out of the dual universe and enter the non-dual universe, you no longer relate to it. You no longer identify with it. It's all running. The universe will continue on because there's no beginning and there's no end. That's one of the reasons why this all works the way it does. Because the stories are just stories. They don't have any continuity. But you think they do. And you identify with it. And I spent 7,000 years believing it.
Yeah, I really don't think that we understand the power. I mean, we talk about it and giggle about it, right? But I really don't think we understand the power of our own beliefs and labels and just how addictive and dense this reality really does to our consciousness.
Hey, look, Napoleon Hill wrote about it in the 20s. What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve, and that's exactly what it is. You're living in this mind, and the mind is like a drug.
And then you become the little bitty doll inside all the big Russian nesting dolls. Right.
Exactly. That's what Ramana Maharshi said. All happens within the little bubble of consciousness called I. As soon as you identify yourself as an I that's separate from you, you're in it, man. You're in it.
That's something like I bring up a lot of biblical texts a lot, only because, when I used to go to church, they'd say like, God said, I am that I am, right? And everybody would be like, oh, praise God. And I'm thinking, do you guys never ask why he said that? Right? I mean, I know it's really fulfilling to hear the words and stuff, but why did he say it that way?
Right. Well, the thing is that that's what the path is.
Yeah.
You're figuring it out.
Yeah. And
once you figure it out, you begin to realize, oh, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You're the guy that's creating this. But that's what we came through. We came through the Kali Yuga, in which it was very, very dense. But now things are starting to lighten up a lot.
Well, how can everybody find your book and read your story? Because I'm sure it goes into more detail.
The most ubiquitous place is Amazon.com. And the name of the book, of course, is The Monograph of the Parallel Life of Tito Abao and Nero. But all you do is put my name in there, it'll probably pop up. But I have 2 other books, but that one is the one that's currently available.
Right, and you go into the more details about the story of what happened and everything you went through.
Right, this is the nexus here. This is one book that explains how the between life agreement works. And all I'm trying to tell people is that this story is your story. I'm wearing the Nero costume. You're wearing the Joseph Rufe costume.
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But the story's the same. There's a vortex. You came into the vortex, and then you did good things. You did bad things, and then at some point you reach the nexus in which it all comes together, and you have to make decisions whether you're going to keep this up or not.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this story with us. It's been really, really cool talking to you, and I get what you're saying. So it was totally worth discussing this.
Well, I'm glad that it's working.
It only takes 2,000 lifetimes or whatever.
That's right. I mean, eventually you figure it out, but it just depends on how much pain you want in your life.
Right. And now you got to figure out how to get out of the vortex, even if you want out of it.
Once you make a decision to get out, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you.
I kind of don't want to leave. I like the food here.
I know. I ran into people like that. I explained it to them, and she says, I like my life the way it is.
Yeah, I like life.
I don't want to be enlightened.
There's a lot of good things about it.
And I said, bless you, dear. Bless you. Carry on.
Yeah, give me the blue pill. I don't mind. I like eating steak.
Right. Exactly. That's right out of the Matrix.
Well, listen,
but it's all up to you. It's all up to you.
Well, do you have a website, by the way, that people can go to? I put the link up there, I think.
The place I like people to go to is the Facebook.com Tito Abao, and that takes you out to my Facebook area.
Okay.
And you can friend and all that sort of thing, and maybe ask questions or whatever.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Tito.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we got to get out of here, guys. It's the end of the night. So sorry that we missed a few nights this week, but everything is back to normal. Don't worry. If you're listening live, stay tuned. We got more programming coming up on the Fringe FM. Ryan Gable from the Secret Teachings is coming up. Next week, we're going to be discussing the Bigfoot captures. There's some pictures we're going to show from Board Camp Crystal Mine. Orville and Cheryl Murphy are going to come back on here, and we're just going to keep this ball rolling. And if you're in the Sedona area, don't forget about Beyond the Matrix event. Go out there and say hi to our very own Suzanne Ross. And I guess we'll look forward to seeing you guys next weekend. And by the way, or next week, excuse me. And by the way, this show is produced by the Fringe FM and can't be syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chrono, Space Station, Kevin MacLeod, Bundy, and some music from the public domain. We'll see you guys Monday night. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the Secret Teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, the Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stuff.
it goes. Hey, hey, let's all get gay, the stuff is here. Everybody just pass your glass, hold the jug but not too fast. Hey, hey, let's all get gay, the stuff is here. Mr. Piano Man, sit down upon that stool. If you need a helping hand, you'll be rewarded. Don't you feel like a doggone fool? Close the windows and lock the door. Take the rug up off the floor. Hey, hey, let's all